Yes, sir.
You talked a little bit about the integral university you're trying to set up, integral psychology, integral ecology. Could you talk about what makes all of those similar and sets them apart from traditional education?
What sets the integral university?
So if I was getting a degree in integral psychology,
Yeah.
could you talk a little bit about how that would be different from, let's say, a group degree from CU or somewhere else in psychology?
Yeah. We would have truth and goodness and beauty.
Right, all right, I'll write that down.
There are probably a dozen major things that you're probably not going to be able to talk about if you're getting a degree through an orthodox university setting.
And it's not malevolent. It's not a bad thing. They're not doing it because they're mean and exclusive or anything like that. It's just because orthodox educational systems have to be very conservative, and they should be. I mean, education is a very important thing. It affects everybody in a country. So you can't come in every year with the latest fad on how to educate somebody and, you know, jerk it around. So they change very, very slowly, which is good and on balance. But it does mean, and if you're a postmodernist, you can actually go in and do a Foucault analysis of what's the accepted discourse in orthodox academic structures. And it's very limited discourse that's allowed. So what we want to try to do with integral is basically nothing's off limits. And so, because it's driven by one fundamental insight, which is literally everybody is right. Every single major theorist has an important truth that we have to figure out how to include. Now, once you start playing that game, it's radically different from the way games are played both in alternative institutions like Naropa and conventional institutions like CU. In CU, for example, if you go into a study of a particular type of psychology, what your education is going to consist of is kind of a brief historical overview of some of the main approaches. Then you're going to decide what you want to do. You're going to be a Freudian, existentialist, a cognitive behaviorist, a neuroscientist, etc. Once you settle into that field, you're going to spend, not you, I mean right. The average, you're way too intelligent. You settle into, and most of your academic career is writing papers on how everybody else is wrong. You know, the Freudians are confused, the behaviorists don't know what they're doing, the existentialists are outmoded, etc. We play a different game, which is how can they all be right? In other words, what's the structure of the psyche such that it would produce these 20 different psychological schools, all of which have some component of truth. So once you start asking that question, it's an entirely different game. And then you find yourself constructing models that say, how can I find a place for all of these truths? And not just an eclectic grab bag. We say, oh, we believe in all of that because it's all great. But you have to have a coherent meta-psychology, if you will, that says here are the components of consciousness and the psyche that can allow all of these to have something important to say.
There's no place anywhere that you can get a degree doing that, except at a university. So that's what we're trying to pioneer.
And it speaks to people that simply are at, frankly, levels of development where integral consciousness won't be silenced. By the time you get to integral levels and waves of development, you have a hunger, you have a thirst. You know that everything is connected to everything else. You know that all of the universe hangs together. And you know that this holistic orientation is the only thing that's going to really satisfy you. And you can tell this because if you get in courses that basically say, this is the approach we like, all these other things are horrible, you're not going to feel comfortable. Because you can see the grains of truth in all of these other approaches. And that's the litmus test. If you're uncomfortable with people that are basically trying to take one school and say it's the best and trash everything else, if you're uncomfortable with that, you're in it. And so right now, less than 2% of the population is actually at those stages of integral. Everybody here, of course. Yeah. But that's going to increase. But right now, it's a small sort of slice of the pie. But we expect that to increase dramatically. And so we want to be able to offer degrees in things like integral ecology, integral art, integral economics, integral psychotherapy, and so on, that has that fundamentally different question as the guiding principle. How can all of these schools be right? And that's what we're trying to work